ANOMACON, how are you? Sean Donnelly here. We want to thank you so much for having us as part of the event. What you're going to see is me, my podcast partner, Dan St. Germain from the Burbs Bros Podcast. So check that out if you haven't yet. It's our discussion with the amazing Michael Ian Black. You may know him from The State, Stella, and very recently he was in Superman. So he's very versed in anything NHI related, because Superman is NHI. We had such a blast talking to Mike. He knows so much about the topic. And yeah, we're just really thrilled to be part of this. And we hope you enjoy the talk. And yeah, follow us on everything and check out the podcast and check out the rest of the amazing lineup here at ANOMACON. Thanks so much. Have a blast.
Superman's great, by the way. If nobody's seen Superman, it's great. And big surprise, Michael's in the movie. Michael, how much Billy Bush did you study to get that role right? It had I loved it, by the way, because like before that, it was like J.K. Simmons, where he was like angry at everything, and your whole character is like, maybe. Sounds pretty good. Like it's amazing.
James Gunn contacted me and said, "Do you want to be in Superman?" And I said, do I play Superman? He said, you do not, but you will be playing Tucker Carlson. And I said, I'm in. So that's what I'm playing. It's more Tucker Carlson than Billy Bush.
Oh, I mean, look, we're not done with the Superman questions, because Mr. Terrific used drones as weapons, look like boogospheres. Are you James Gunn or Margot Kidder CIA? What's going on? This seems like a lot of UAP stuff was dropped in this movie to get us ready for disclosure. Am I off base here?
I hadn't really considered that. But now that I'm replaying the film in my head, yeah. And I think the message is clearly of the film, if you haven't seen it, extraterrestrial life is real and it's benevolent. That was the message of the film. They're coming and they're going to be your friends. That was the message, and I applaud it.
I'm dying to see
awesome. It's the first time I really did feel like with Sin City, I felt like I was reading the comic book, and this one I felt like I was reading the comic book. It's the only other.
Yeah, it's very true to the comics, which I liked. I thought it was a really smart movie, a smart superhero movie, because I thought that James Gunn did a lot of like really sort of clever things to set up this world and anchor Superman in it, and you can see how he's building out the universe through this film. I just thought it was really smart. I thought, like, when I saw the trailer and I saw that crypto was in it, I was like, I don't know. But it turns out,
killed it, man.
Goddamn dog steals the film. That goddamn ET dog. Oh, tremendous performance by the dog.
It's probably not good for actors long term, but it's great in the movie.
Terrible for once the dogs start taking over all the actors' jobs. It's just game over.
Game over. Well, Michael, we were talking about this, and we'd love to get your opinion on this. Did they tell us all this Kennedy info so we didn't ask who killed Epstein? And follow up, will we get disclosure just so Trump can take the scent off Epstein and be like, look, Pleiadians?
There's been
go back, because what's the RFK news that?
JFK. It's the assassination.
JFK. What was that news? That the CIA was monitoring. What's his face, Lee Harvey Oswald, and they're just admitting to it now, and blah,
which we kind of it's just that they have more hard facts, so that where a key player came into focus, where they were like, oh yeah, this is the guy, and what was happening was he was kind of from afar was manipulating like the actions of Oswald. So this guy started this Teens Against Cuba type scenario, whatever it was. And then he had that's the ones that got into the fight with Oswald on the street in New Orleans. And this guy was behind the group. Like he started it. Like he started the group. And his name was something, I forget, something with a B, his actual name. But in the inner workings of this back and forth, he went by Howard. So when he started the group, He just went by Howard. They knew him as Howard. And then when they're investigating all the Oswald stuff, they're like, this guy Howard keeps popping up. And they're like, do you know anything about him? And he was like, nah, we couldn't find anything on a Howard. And he was Howard. So the fact being is like, it just gives more credible evidence to be like, yeah, they knew way more than they let on for 60, 70 years. You know, they just knew more.
So is the thought that they manipulated Oswald, or is the thought that and that the CIA is ultimately culpable, or is the thought that Oswald was still acting independently? He just happened to be associated with this group.
So, like I said to Dan, because I was into this in high school because JFK came out when I was in high school. My theory on this, from this news story, is telling you.
By the way, I thought it was so brave when he came out. I mean, in that day and age, you know what I mean? People weren't doing that. I thought it was so brave. Good for him.
So I think what it showed, because my theory, after reading everything and watching everything, and my theory, not that I know anything, but my theory was that the FBI and the CIA knew about Oswald, and they were just kind of like, and we'll just let it happens. It happens. It doesn't because you know Oswald's brother wanting to smash to break up the CIA and heavily decimate the FBI, and he had really a lot of plans for that kind of stuff. So I think that based off this new news, I think they were kind of manipulating his actions somewhat, but it shows that the monitoring was probably way more intense than you'd assume if they're having him involved with this Teens Against Cuba group. And so they're going to know. I was just telling Dan, he ordered that rifle. I think he did all the stuff, but I think they were like, hey, I think they knew he ordered the rifle. I think they had guys on him. I think they had guys interacting with him like 2 and 3 deep. You know what I'm saying? So not that I'm saying they told him, hey, do this, and he did it like the patsy, like he said, but I think that he was being played from afar and being watched way more stringently than we were to assume over the years, or being told over the years.
And it was CIA officer.
That makes me feel kind of.
What's
his name?
CIA officer George Jonitas.
Okay, yeah, that's.
I think Cuban. Whose
name does pop up if you read enough books. It does pop up in JFK lore. Yeah.
See, the JFK thing has never interested me in the same way that this other conspiratorial stuff does. I don't know why. Maybe just because I didn't have any. I mean, I didn't know the guy. Maybe that's it. I just didn't know the guy. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I
before
think
my time.
For me, it's either because it's nothing or it's so depressing. Like, those are the two options. There's no like, oh, well, the U.S. government turns out great, because either they like had the worst Secret Service protection plan ever, or they were behind it.
Well, you know what they have going for them with things like this that happen in history is there's a phenomenon that happens on a hive mind type scenario that happens where something random happens to the human race, and people go, well, it must be something, right? You've heard that before. It must be a conspiracy because this just couldn't happen. Like, it was uncalled for that this guy would have been shot in the middle of Dallas. But at the same time, doesn't mean both are true. That this guy was being played, and this guy is sadly, like, the CIA was involved, and also there's millions of parts of this that are just happenstance, like the Jack Ruby thing. Jack Ruby thing was completely random. Him shooting Oswald, he had his dogs with him. They were in the car. He was getting a Western Union thing for one of his dancers at the strip club that he owned. So it's like, that was random, but then you also have this guy, what was him, Johannes, whatever his name is. I think so. You have enough random stuff plus purposeful stuff. That's where you get your giant conspiracy, your batshit conspiracy from.
Now, have you guys talked about the alleged UFO link to all of this?
Yes, I've heard. We haven't talked about it yet, but I've heard of this.
We haven't talked about it, but we would love to hear about it.
What are you thinking?
So I don't know that much about it because it just seems so absurd on its face. But in UFO circles, there is some speculation that part of the reason, if not the reason, that he was killed, and in this case it would be by the CIA or elements within the CIA, was that JFK had been read in on the program and was all about disclosure and was going to disclose, and the powers that be said, "Not so fast, kid," and they took him out. Now, I don't subscribe to that. I haven't seen any evidence to support that. I know that there is some sort of circumstantial evidence, but it just seems so crazy to me. And that's the thing with this field. It's like everything in it is so crazy that I don't know how anybody is able to sort of pick and choose which is the crazy stuff they choose to believe.
Yeah.
It's all insane.
Yeah.
So you can go, well, of course, aliens have nothing to do with JFK being assassinated. But by saying that, you're saying, well, yeah, but obviously aliens are real. Obviously, there's these extraterrestrial species that come down to Earth, and it didn't have anything to do with JFK being killed, but we could, or there's, I don't believe that JFK was assassinated because of aliens, but I believe in mantis beings.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where you draw the line.
It's like it's a smorgasbord of what you're going to believe in regards to UFOs.
But my question, I mean, do you guys, in my mind, like the only thing crazier than this Epstein story would be aliens, or barring like a major terrorist attack that would take the news, which, by the way, I really hope that's not what they do or someone does. But I think that the second, I do think that I think that this Epstein thing is a huge problem for Trump, and I think this is the only thing that would get away. I'm begging you, Trump. Okay, we'll forget about Epstein. Just let us know about aliens.
Right. So your current theory, and I want to believe this theory, is that Trump will be forced into disclosure as a distraction from the Epstein stuff.
Yes, as a don't look at me being a look at the plebeians.
and you can. I was telling Dave,
I think it could happen. I know that's crazy, but I think
you can see him melting down from it on his Twitter and stuff like that. And one thing I'll say is that if he doesn't do it, and we all believe that disclosure is kind of happening, is trickling out over it is. The fact that he didn't do it shows you how ironclad this cabal that goes on above the Congress is, and how much. So he's like, they might have talked to him to a point where he's like, it's not an option. Like I can kind of hum and haw when I'm asked about it and go, people see weird stuff. Yep. But to come out and be like, because that would do it for a lot of people, because he's so the news all the time, 24 hours a day. And if he was like, hey, it's true, they told me it's true, they would just believe him, because it'd be so much news him saying it. Then that would force like legitimate disclosure. I think you're right. The problem
with that is that you're right. His people would believe it, and everybody else would be like, this guy's out of his mind. Like he's the last messenger you want delivering this news.
Yes.
Because by virtue of it being from him, it's gonna become politicized in a way that it need not be.
Yes.
Incidentally, I disagree. I don't think disclosure is ever coming, not from an official channel anyway. That doesn't seem likely at all to me, probable in any way, shape, or form.
Here's my only other reason it could happen, and it's very tiny, and it's kind of based on another conspiracy theory. But Pasulka, Gary Nolan, top names in this field, have kind of hinted that when Elon Musk has denied the existence of NHI, that he's full of shit and he has a craft. That's an unspoken conspiracy theory. And the reason, let me just finish.
Go ahead.
And that the reason that that we haven't seen this is because it's like Lockheed Martin possibly having the Tic Tac.
Third party.
Like he wants to get all the financial gain from it. This could be a way for Trump to be like, all right, I'm going to this guy's revenue stream and give everybody this. That's it. That was my big thought.
Sure. Sure. It's a thought. And
I think it's so.
Yeah, I'm
for it to be like for it to be so at the tip of their tongue to come out with this. I think that, like you said, about no disclosure ever. I think they probably convinced him in some sort of way, like this just doesn't get out. Like, because obviously if he had the chance already, he might have done it when they were going back and forth and been like, well, he's got a craft. And that would be an even worse way for it to come out. Like when they were name calling back and forth after they broke up. And he goes, well, he's got a UFO. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. And then actually what that would do would be the opposite effect at that point. What it would do is make this thing fantastical again and make it go away in the public eye. And they'd be like, all right, this is just this lunatic doing this and none of it's real. And then a blanketed thing would go out and then you'd be back in the dark ages with disclosure.
That's kind of what I think would happen too. I agree with that. I don't know. I guess the further into this I get, the more I'm convinced that the government itself doesn't know what this is. Whether they have recovered craft or not, I don't know. I do believe Grush, in the sense that I believe Grush was reporting back exactly what he was told, but we haven't yet to hear from him any firsthand accounts, even though obviously there's a lot of rumors to the effect that he has those firsthand accounts. I'm not convinced that there's any successful reverse engineering, although I guess the Lockheed Martin thing makes it, I guess it's possible, and it's certainly not the first time I've heard that rumor. Yeah, the more I learn about it, the more I get into it, the less interested I am in the thing that I think is so compelling to a lot of people, which is the nuts and bolts aspect of it, the craft aspect of it. To me, while that's interesting, and I'm interested in exotic technology, it's less interesting to me than the consciousness component and like the psionics component, if that's true. And the remote viewing component and the overlap with near-death experiences and the overlap with astral projection and like all of these like weird sort of fringy things, of which I'm convinced are real in the sense that people are having these experiences or believe that they're having these experiences. Like I'm convinced that all that is subjectively real. And there seems to be a very direct tie-in some capacity to UFOs, to angels and poltergeists and all of this shit. That's where my interest is. My interest is in the sort of the phenomenological part of it rather than the physics part of it, rather than the craft part of it.
The basis.
So
of reality.
that's where I've landed.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why whether the government discloses or not to me has become less and less interesting. Obviously, it would cause all kinds of secondary and tertiary effects that would be global, and I'd be fascinated to see how that plays out. But it's less interesting to me than the kind of weird woo-woo shit that the more I look into it, the more I'm convinced is real.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that's the most interesting part because it's coming from the more and more it's discussed, it's coming from these really believable places. The Surviving Death did it for me on Netflix, pretty hardcore. I think you've seen. I think we talked about it. I think you saw it, Michael. And I think you're exactly right. I think it's all tied together. And I think what ends up happening, it gets built up to a point where it kind of takes its human form. So if it gets to Lockheed, it's Lockheed using elements of this psionic and this consciousness aspect of this thing to turn it into something that we can use for war and just dominating as we've been dominating. And the fact that Coulthard came back out and said that these Tic Tacs possibly are, or he said they're psionically driven, that's when you're like, holy shit. And if we're at that point, then once again, it's like these third-party companies, and they've even trumped the, for lack of a better phrase, trumped the Congress on these things. They are just you're getting subsidized, and you're just lapping what the government even knows about what you're doing. So obviously, it's like you have all these legitimate government sources saying we don't have anything close to that, and then in 2004, you have something that's 1,000 years ahead of what the government knows that you have. That's even that's another arm of this bullshit conspiracy. Besides the military side, you have the companies hiding from this guy, hiding from that, whatever it is. So I agree. The interesting part is people are like, no, I saw this thing and it's true, and they're sober sources and they're for real, or they do this thing. It wasn't a dream. I was totally awake. This happened. I saw this. You add up all anecdotal, and I think it battles Majestic 12 documents and everything like that. I think if you have thousands and thousands of things that you're like, give me 1% of these being true, and then the whole thing's true. That's it. And I think that's very possible. And I think, like you said, subjective is the perfect word, because you have to be in that realm, that frequency, in order to experience this stuff. So that's why somebody like me or like Dan, even though how much we want something like this to happen, it hasn't for either of us really. So you're still behind that. You're trying to get into that VIP room of consciousness. You're trying to get into that thing where I know what you mean because I had my own version of this, and I'm past that point of believing. And it becomes, it's not faith anymore. It's like, no, this is a fact.
I'm almost positive that there's an afterlife and that our energy keeps going. Michael, have you landed on anything yet as far as the afterlife and as far as what you think happens next?
No, I'm just excited to die.
It's kind of like, even though you just said like the afterlife, it's like it's not even afterlife if you're really paying attention to this consciousness stuff. It's
No.
just, it's kind of like you ever look up what people see when they're on, they have the DMT effects, what happens. I've never done it, but they have what happens to people on that, and they're like, there's people that are convinced, they're like, I went to a place, this place is there when I wasn't there, and I knew it, and it felt more real than reality. So that's not an afterlife, that's not some magical you're in heaven, that's like a thing. What you're realizing is that, oh, our science is not even where it should be, and the true nature of reality involves whatever this next thing happens. Especially, that's why Surviving Death is so great, when they talk about all the different effects that happens to a human that are unexplainable, but it happens time and time again. Like the visions people have right before they die, and the nurses, it's just matter of fact for these people when they, hey, well, she talked to her grandma last night, so she's done. And the doctor goes, well, I want to try a couple of treatments. And they go, you didn't hear me. She talked to her grandma last night. She's done. She had an hour-long conversation with her grandma. It's like stuff like that. Or the woman who was the doctor, and she went somewhere. It wasn't DMT. She was dead for a half hour. And she, at the end of the whole thing, they make it, she tells this really great story about visiting a place, and there was these beings, and they tell her stuff. She wasn't necessarily religious. She kind of got like a pretty straightforward vibe. And at the end, she tells you, by the way, I'm a doctor. It's stuff like that to me that really, really drives it home. It's stuff like that that's like, or the reincarnation episode, which I was like, I believe it's not reincarnation. I just think it's these radio station things. I just think the consciousness is bouncing around and then hopping in a tuning fork and then getting out and then going in and getting. It's like it's just a free for all. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, I think that's sort of where my views are also. I think, yeah, consciousness is a free-for-all. Yeah, the idea of reincarnation, it seems to be pretty well established, although I think the distinction that you made is really interesting, and one that I think I've come to sort of come around on, which is that whatever this is, and by this I mean capital T this. Yeah. It seems like that one explanation for reincarnation, as you just said, is that consciousness. It's that it's typically children who remember these things. Yeah. When they're remembering them, it's conceivable that they're not remembering essentially their own past life so much as they're tuning into a pre-existing frequency that, for whatever reason, is still trying to communicate something.
So it's not them, actually. It's the signal. It's them picking up the signal of the dead.
Yes, except that if you take it far enough, what all faiths, or I think most faiths, say is that there's no you, there's no me. So there is that sort of universal consciousness, and me as a manifestation of that universal consciousness can tap back into that sort of larger universal consciousness and say, oh yeah, there was this guy and he was a Hollywood agent in the 30s and that was me and I remember everything about it. But it's not you in the sense that you're individuated. It's that you're tapping into this sort of universal consciousness of which that was also a part. And you and that you're just an aspect of that larger consciousness. And
it's like
when
the
we
wrist
manifest,
becoming aware of like the arm or the body. Essentially,
or maybe a better way to say it is, I'm a finger here, and you're a finger here, and you're a finger here, but we're all the same hand. We're all the same hand, and that hand is attached to the same arm, attached to the same body, which is, and you can extrapolate that as far as you want to go into all of life. And when I say life, I don't necessarily mean organisms the way that we think about them. I mean there could be categories and strata of life that we're utterly unaware of.
Well, guys, there is some literal phenomenon though. This isn't like a different. There was an F-16 collision with a UAP, I guess, leaving in 2023. Yeah, this has been all over the news, but the F-16 was completely unharmed, and it looks like one of the small Mr. Terrific drone balls. Does this? My question is, I think this. There's not one article I've looked around that's like dispelling this. Like it's one of the first ones I've seen where they're like, there's not a lot of skeptics for it, which I think says a lot about it. But like the fact that it didn't like impact this thing, and you would think that a projectile going this fast that would be metallic hitting an F-16 jet would create some damage, but it didn't.
So they're both traveling. They're both in midair. They collide.
Yeah.
and the F-16 is fine.
F-16's fine. No damage.
And
That's what they said. Now, I don't know if that's a lie, but that's what they said.
And did they say that there was an impact felt by the pilot of the F-16?
Yeah, it's I'm reading it now from lovely Fox News, but it was January 2023. An unidentified object collided with the left side of an F-16 Viper jet, struck the clear canopy at the top of the aircraft, and was first. Well, the canopy is that the window? Because if that's the window, I could see how that would have bounced off. I guess. But there was no.
If you're traveling at jet speeds, there wouldn't be cracking. There wouldn't be splintering.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, what? This is so weird, right?
Maybe it's a case where a collision to us is a little misstep to them. So maybe because of how fast they go and how quickly they can respond, they were able to kind of hit the brakes a little bit before, like their collision. It was way less of a collision because of how good
the mid-air brakes. You're saying hit the mid-air brakes. Slow the jet down to 5 or 6 miles an hour.
No. I'm saying that the object, like if it was,
the object,
yeah, not the F-16. No, that's going full force. That's Top Gun at that point. That's Mach 7.
Very weird. There is not one. There's nothing. There's nothing on this thing. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So how are they describing the UAP, and who's describing it?
It's tiny, right?
How is this story coming out?
The fighter pilots coming out. Declassified documents came out. So
I see.
Declassified it. But
has the pilot gone on record?
I mean, he goes on him in the documents. I don't know if he hasn't corroborated this since it's come out, but right. Yeah, it was Jesus Christ, man. I mean, everything about these things blows my mind. Every new fact, I think that's why I love the topic so much, because now I've got to be like, well, I mean, do they have some sort of protective membrane? It opens up a bunch of different areas for me.
Well,
but more interestingly, in that story, are they deliberately protecting us? Because presumably, if something's moving that fast or moving through midair and it's not impacting another object, well, that's deliberate. There's a reason for that, right? I mean,
yeah.
because if you're just if it didn't care, it would just go right through the thing.
Yeah. Unless some of these NHI aren't as all knowing as we think, and they fuck up, right? I mean,
sure.
Yeah, but
but if they fuck up, then it seems like the F-16 would have crashed.
Yeah,
that's my point.
Or not, because even when you hear about there's other cases you hear about, there in that one book, that Leslie Kean book, which is anecdotal, but it's all military based anecdotal evidence, and they talk about the Iranian pilot that she talked to who was chasing it down, and his instruments, when he was trying to fire at the thing, and then it did that thing that it comes up time and time again where his instruments, his weapons malfunctioned, but he was getting orders. They thought it was some, us or whoever, and the orders were keep going, and then he got to the point where the plane was getting to the point where it couldn't operate anymore because he was getting out of the realm of where he could fly. That's how high he was getting, and he was and everything was, and then his instruments getting fucked up. But they don't know if it was the craft itself or if it was because of it was going exceeding the limitations of the jet itself. But then this guy, I think, almost crashed or whatever, got hurt. But it wasn't the UAP. It was evading him. It was leaving.
That Iranian guy died.
Did he die? No.
Wait.
No, I think she interviewed him for the book. So
no, the general. No, he wrote his own chapter for that book.
Yeah, okay.
So if he died, it was from beyond the grave that he wrote that.
Proof another element of the phenomenon. The phenomenon keeps tricking us, guys. It keeps tricking us each time.
So besides,
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm
sorry. I just read that Fox News story, and what it implies is that it hit a drone, and in 2023, conceivably, yeah, you could hit some sort of commercial drone and not have it impact the F-16, I would imagine, if that's what it was. Entirely possible, but it seems like they would have ruled that out. They would have said, no, it's just a hobbyist
to
drone.
Your point, if it's going that fast.
I don't know. I mean, those things are so light, though, right? those drones are so light.
Depending on what you,
I haven't held one. We should buy a drone for the show, though.
yeah. Well, I tell you, if one of them,
100%.
if drones go from everything from what you get at a sharper image up until a Tic Tac, it's like how many levels of these things do they have? Like so the operable ones that they're using, I would guess maybe not that big, but they're probably heavier duty than you'd think.
I can imagine the drone me and Sean are going to buy will not have these capabilities. At most, it'll maybe like things up at the tap ante. That's as high as it's going to go. Last story, this is actually near me and Sean, but the Great Bigfoot Chase starts in Cortland County, New York. What unintended nightmares could this lead to? I know why Cortland County is doing this, because they don't have the Catskills. So they're like
we need something.
What else are we going to do?
Yeah.
We can only sell so many different honeys from mason jars to make rent here. But my whole thing is what we've discovered, Michael, with the Bigfoot explorations, Bigfoot searches. Usually an excuse for guys to just go into the woods and have sex with each other.
Usually or always?
Every single time.
Every single time.
Well, we've been talking about that where it's like the Bigfoot videos, it's never like UFO videos, even though they're blurry. The Bigfoot videos are like, look at this fur on this tree that we found, like this little piece of fur that could have been from a cat or whatever it is. Or they'll be like, what's that animal screaming in the fog? It's like, oh, come on, dude. But the one thing I will say, and not to legitimize anything, because I'm not a Bigfoot person, but that the fact that it showed the Skinwalker, that it showed up in accounts, that it showed up, they think that Skinwalker might be a portal and that these things were showing up there. They had sightings of Bigfoots at the area of Skinwalker Ranch, if not on the ranch itself. So I'm like, that's weird that it would show up that in reports from there, because it seems so the opposite of that.
Hey, go where you're celebrated. My wife
Yeah, the whole thing about cryptids, Michael? To me.
Yeah.
Do I believe in them?
Do you have any cryptids?
No, I don't. It's weird because I kind of don't believe in anything, and I simultaneously believe in everything. So cryptids to me, it's like, yeah, Bigfoot to me, like, it seems to me if Bigfoot were a thing living out in the Pacific Northwest and in the East Coast and wherever, like, we'd have a Bigfoot. Like, we would just have a Bigfoot. However, once you introduce the idea of interdimensional big feet, I'm like, okay, that might explain some things.
You get the Jacques Vallée.
Using Occam's razor. Using Occam's razor, what's more likely? That Bigfoot doesn't exist or that he's an interdimensional traveler?
Space Bigfoot.
I know where I'm leaning.
Space Bigfoot.
I'm leaning towards space Bigfoot.
Yeah.
To Michael's point, if Bigfoot did exist, he would be in a general commercial with Shaq. You know what I mean? There's no way he wouldn't be he would be with Shaq all the time. They would be inseparable.
They'd be in a convertible together. Yeah. They just be just like, man, it's the general and Shaq and the Bigfoot just in a convertible, just speeding around a corner.
I love it, man. Well, Michael, thank you so much for doing this, dude. Where can people see you, Mike?
And Superman is where they can see him.
Go and see Superman.
Superman's doing okay, but do you have any live dates that we can?
I'm taping my special on
special?
the 20. I mean, special. It's not Netflix didn't come knocking on my door. You know what I mean? Special.
Where are you taping the special?
Bell House, Brooklyn.
Nice.
Oh, that'd be cool. Man.
We'll come by. Yeah, that'd be great.
No, it's okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Man, thank you so much.
I knew I was going to get shit for that the minute I stopped. Look, come on. No, you're good. Fuck you.
It's okay. It's okay.
Michael, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Awesome.
I know.
My pleasure.
See you soon,
Always
man.
fun talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll see you soon.
Class, man.
Take care, guys.
Man. I really appreciate you doing
Thanks,
it. Thank you.